All right, let's get into it. We're looking at Draganfly's latest earnings report, and honestly, it's a real head-scratcher. You've got two completely different stories happening at the exact same time. So what's really going on here?
So, check this out. The market's reaction? It was swift and it was brutal. We're talking a nearly 20% drop in the stock price, like right after the Q4 numbers hit. I mean, that's not just a signal. That's a giant flashing neon sign that investors are not happy.
But here's where it gets weird. At the exact same time the stock is tanking, the company itself is basically celebrating a record year for revenue, right? So what gives? How does that even happen? Okay, let's unpack this thing.
Okay, so to figure this out, you gotta look past the big headlines. We need to dig into the nitty-gritty numbers, the stuff that the pros on Wall Street were staring at. And for them, it was all about one thing, the fourth quarter.
And boom, here's the problem in black and white. Wall Street had its expectations, right? And Draganfly just missed. On both fronts. They were supposed to lose 13 cents a share, they lost 20. They were supposed to bring in almost $2.8 million in revenue, they only got $1.37 million. That's not a small miss, that's a huge miss. And for investors, that's a major, major red flag. And it doesn't really get better when you zoom out and look at the whole year. The company's total loss for the year, it got bigger. A lot bigger. We're talking almost $23 million in the red. Now that's a really key number because it tells you that even though they're selling more stuff, they're spending money even faster. That's a tough spot to be in.
Okay, and here's one more piece of the puzzle. It's a thing called adjusted gross margin. All you really need to know is it's a fancy way of asking how much money do you make on each thing you sell. And for Draganfly, that number went down. A lot. By more than 10%. So basically, it got way more expensive for them to actually build and sell their drones this year, and that just chews away at any profit they might hope to make.
So you gotta ask, right, where is all this cash going? And this is where the story completely splits in two. Because if you listen to the company, they'll tell you this isn't about losing money, it's about spending money, strategically. And suddenly, a totally different, way more optimistic story starts to come out of the exact same set of numbers. And this is the big number the company wants you to focus on. Forget the Q4 miss, forget the losses for a second. They grew their sales by almost 18% last year. That's their best year ever. And that's the number that just flies in the face of everything else we just looked at. A total contradiction.
So you hear this from the CEO, Cameron Chell, and he basically says, look, you're looking at this all wrong. He doesn't see this as burning cash. He sees it as building the factory before you get the giant order. He's saying they're laying the groundwork, the infrastructure for a huge ramp-up in revenue that they see coming.
Okay, so what does that investment actually look like? Well, let's take a real-world example they talk about, the southern border. Law enforcement there had a huge problem. It could take them up to 2 hours to respond to something. And the drones they had, they can only fly for like 30, maybe 40 minutes. Plus, the conditions are brutal. Crazy temperatures, high altitude. Your standard off-the-shelf drone just wasn't going to cut it.
And this is exactly where Draganfly's spending comes in. They didn't just try to sell them something they already had. No, they spent a ton on R&D, working with the sheriff's department to build something totally new. And what they came up with was the Outrider drone. This thing is a beast. It can fly for 7 hours straight and carry 100 pounds. It was literally built to solve every single one of those problems.
Now here's the kicker. All that money they spent, it wasn't just to build one drone for one customer. What they actually did was create a whole new border solution business. They're the experts now, and that expertise is getting attention from all over the world. So that big, one-time cost suddenly looks like a smart investment that could pay off for years.
All right, so let's zoom out again, because this Outrider drone isn't just some standalone project. It's actually a really important piece of a much, much bigger picture they're trying to build.
What the CEO keeps hammering home is their biggest advantage. They have a whole family of drones that all work together. You need a little pocket-sized tactical drone? They've got it. You need the giant workhorse that can carry heavy gear? They've got that too. The point is, almost nobody else can offer a customer the whole spectrum, from small to huge, all in one integrated package. And it's not just about selling the drones themselves. The real play here is to make their drones a platform, kind of like an iPhone, right? They're working with all these other top-tier tech and defense companies to build specialized tools, cameras, AI software, you name it, that plug right into their systems.
And you can see just how versatile this makes them. Look at these partners. They're working with a huge defense contractor, Global Ordnance. They're plugging in advanced AI drone swarming tech. They've got a system for clearing landmines from the air. And they're even helping a massive telecom company put up temporary cell towers after disaster. It's an incredible range of uses.
Which, brings us right back to where we started. We have this really ugly financial picture that Wall Street hates, and then we have this super compelling story of growth, innovation, and building for the future. So how do you square that circle?
At the end of the day, it's like we're reading two totally different reports based on the exact same data. The markets report reads, warning, missed targets, high costs, short-term risk. But the company's report reads, success, record sales, strategic investment, building a drone empire. It's the classic battle, right? Short-term pain versus long-term gain.
And the company's justification for all this spending is that they're making a massive bet. The CEO thinks we're in what he calls a 10-year supercycle for drones. He sees it as part of this huge global shift toward, well, everything becoming automated. He's basically saying this is the beginning of the internet, or the dawn of the smartphone age, for drones, and they're paddling hard to catch that wave.
So that's the big question this whole thing leaves us with. Is all this spending just a super risky bet that's bleeding cash? Or is it a brilliant, long-term play to dominate a massive new industry? Is the market right to be terrified, or is the company right to be so confident? I guess only time will tell which one of those stories ends up being the true one.